Chandra Tamradekshanam Abhishtavarabhayapradram Kaupinamujvalam Svatmanandarasанubhuti vivasham Sarvanavatyangakam Shriman Ramaneshwaram Guvaram Yogasana Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmatram Yahamamiti Sakshatatmarupena Bhati Hrudi Vishamanasa Swam Chinvata Machatava Pavanachanarodha Adishto Bhavatvam Namo Ramana. We will commence Friday evening Adhyana by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. I will be reading Ramana Answers, Self-Inquiry 1900 to 1950, a compilation of all the answers given by Bhagavan on the subject of Atma Vichara between 1900 and 1950. The compilation is by our founder, President Sri A.R. Natarajanji, and we have been looking at question answers on the self-inquiry 1936 to 1950. And we have been looking at a series of questions that has been asked by a devotee, and Akka mentioned that it was perhaps Paul Brunton. So we will continue to look at the next question and answer, following which we will meditate on the answer given by Bhagavan by his grace, and then have the Atma Vichara session for 20 minutes, following which Akka would be talking about Atma Vichara from the Ramana Gita. And then we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. And the last two questions were asked, which is a continuation. I'll just try to read that so that we can connect with it. Devotee, what exactly is this self of which you speak? If what you say is true, then there must be another self in man. Maharshi, can a man be possessed of two identities, two selves? To understand this matter, it is first necessary for a man to analyze himself, because it has long been his habit to think. He has never faced his I in the true manner. He does not have a correct picture of himself. He has too long identified himself with the body and the mind. Before I tell you to pursue the enquiry, who am I? You asked me to describe this true self to you. What he said, it is that out of which they would have to disappear. To which the devotee puts, disappear? How can one lose the feeling of one's personality? Bhagavan. First and foremost of all thoughts, the primeval thought is the mind of every man is the I thought. It is only after the birth of this thought that any other thoughts can arise at all. It is only after the first personal pronoun I has arisen in the mind that the personal pronoun you can make its appearance. If you could mentally follow the I thread until it leads you to its source, you would discover that what to appear, so it is the last to disappear. This is a matter which can be experienced. Now, to that devotee is asking, you that it is perfectly possible to conduct such a mental investigation into oneself. Bhagavan, assuredly it is possible to go inwards until the last thought, I, gradually vanishes. So Bhagavan is very clearly saying here, assuredly it is possible that we can do this mental investigation wherein we can be privy of the I thought gradually vanishing and then the soul, the self alone, being there shining as the I. This is very important for us especially because we have doubts. We continually doubt whenever we are attending to any object, in what form may be, we will continue to have the doubt because object is not fullness by itself, and therefore being somewhat incomplete, it always puts a doubt in us whether that is completely what I am seeing. In that way, we can be assured that whenever we are attached to something, whenever we are perceiving or knowing or doing something with objects, it is very much certain that there is going to be doubts. We doubt whether what I am doing or what I am knowing is complete by itself. Therefore, by asking, doubt that outward turnness by asking this question, who is this one, to whom is this doubt appearing? By asking that question and investigating to whom it is appearing, not again through a mental answer, which we usually do, because we are so used to this knowing and doing business that we try to again answer. But as Bhagavan says in that experience, it is just an investigation, as Bhagavan says here, just to see whom is this thought appearing, becoming clearly recognizing that, by gradually turning inward to whom this thought is appearing, to whom this object is appearing, to whom this doubt is appearing. By investigation, then it becomes very, very clear, the source becomes very clear. And if at all we say, oh, now I'm clear of the source, then again that is an object. Then we should further, because once we make that conclusion, again we may get a doubt whether what I have seen, what I have known is complete, because every time we attend to any object, we have to remember that we are opening up the possibility of the doubt. Therefore, it in any form of mental concepts, but just becoming aware of that natural phenomena that is happening. To whom is this thought appearing? As Bhagavan says in his death experience, the whole thing was happening and he was only, without any mental thoughts, observing what was happening. And it became clear to him. It is that process that we need, that we simply keep looking at it, looking to whom is this thought appearing, rather than try to make a conclusion through words, through statements. Oh, now I know, or now I don't know. Either of putting any of these statements, if we simply become aware of the natural is there, then Bhagavan says gradually the I vanishes because it was only a phantom entity, it was only a notion. It vanishes or disappears that truth which alone is, if at all it can be described, it can be said it is not something known and it is something unknown. So vivid, and it is ourself. Therefore, there is no second thing to know, and then because it is ourself, it is impossible to say that I don't know. So it becomes an experience very subtle. And by repeatedly attending to that self, that which we are, Bhagavan assures that mind will gain enough strength to abide in that, which Bhagavan in his death experience actually talks about fascination. In a way, I was having a conversation with Atta this evening, and I was saying that fascination seems to be missing. And it's actually what we see is only that fascination actually. We are fascinated either with the truth or we are fascinated with this phantom entity. So it is just that everything what Bhagavan shows is that it is very natural. It is just the question of what way we are perceiving it. So, drishtim gnanam krutva pashyan brahmamayam jagat, says Bhagavan. If we make our perception as that of the truth, then we see that everything is Brahman alone. Everything is quite natural, sahaja. So it is important that this inquiry, who am I, is done. Otherwise, we can be assured that we will be continuously attached to some object. And with that object, we always, like what they say in advertisement, text and a subtext. And with every time we are the object, underlying it, we have some emotional thing with it. So we will be attached to the object with that emotion quotient. But rather, when we turn and inquire to whom is this, and when we make the subject, the object, the action of perceiving everything as one, then it becomes very clear that absolutely everything is only a mental imagination. What is that one truth which alone is shining. I. Therefore, Bhagavan says it is perfectly possible to conduct mental investigation, and it is possible to go inwards until this last thought gradually vanishes. So the attention should be to see the source to whom anything gradually turn with the question, who am I, back to the source. It is very clear that the source alone remains. The immense grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we could have come to this most direct path, which reveals that everything is only a mental object that we are creating, and that it is only appearing to the truth. And therefore, inquiring to whom is this object appearing, or to whom is this thing appearing, and seeing it is appearing to me, and seeing that even I is also an object. Therefore, who am I? Putting that question and turning our attention back to that source, to that truth which alone is. Bhagavan is making every moment an opportunity to abide in that one truth and not get carried away by the object and the phenomena, that subtext that is associated. Get back to that one truth which is free of all this text, the subtext, here and now, which alone is real. So Bhagavan is giving this wonderful opportunity to this Atma Vichara to abide as the truth. The immense grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path, wherein here and now we could abide in that truth by inquiring every thought, no matter what kind of thought it may be, whether it is a good thought, irrespective of what the thought is and its text is, we could inquire to whom is for me, and therefore that me, that individual idea, that I am this body, to whom I am Dilip, to whom this is appearing. By further questioning who am I and trying to see the source of that I, we can get, which is here and now, free of this entire phenomena, which alone is, which ever shining, and therefore abide in that truth. So Bhagavan, with the immense grace of Bhagavan, minutes, let us do Atma Vichara. Radha.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we have been able to dwell on the teachings, the path of self-inquiry, as well as be able to sit for some time for practice of self-inquiry. And we continue the manana, the meditations on self-inquiry based on the verses compiled by Ganapati Muni, composed and compiled by Ganapati Muni, called the Ramana Gita, which is a Sanskrit verse rendering of question and answers with Bhagwan. Questions by several devotees and answers from Bhagwan. So we were meditating on the verse in the third chapter. The third chapter is called Mukhya Kartavya Nirupanam, the delineation of the most important duty, the Kartavya, the most important Kartavya. And we saw that Devarata had asked Bhagavan to give one as the answer. Just give me one important duty and explain to me why that is important, was what Devarata had asked. And saying, putting this in the context of our sadhana and the chapters of Ramana Gita, we saw that the first chapter of Ramana Gita gives us an introduction to the importance of sadhana itself, to the importance of self-abidance in the practice. So we may have heard, we may have read, we may have studied, and we may have intellectually thought about it, done satya, satya viveka, recognize that everything in this world is just passing, it is not the reality, and having recognized that, Bhagavan says, you must abide as that, you must abide that. It is only the practice which can, the direct experience which can liberate. So then Bhagavan had also described the beauty of the final state of liberation, how a jnani will be able to recognize himself or herself, and how the jnani is recognized by the people at large because of the sarva bhuta samatva, because of the absolute equality towards all. Having heard about the glory of that state and having got the introduction to the fact that one must abide in the self, the next question would arise, what exactly is the self? And therefore, Bhagavan, he gives the description, the clear description of the self in the second chapter to us, saying that it is Hridaya Kuhara Madhye, it is Kevalam Brahma Matram, the self alone is nothing else is there, and it manifests itself when it manifests as Aham, Aham, Aham. Aham, Aham iti sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati as. So the self manifests as I, and he gave us the paths to get back to that. Bhagavan has already given us the path. He has said, Swam Chinvata Majjata Pavanacharana Rodhat. He told us that through self-inquiry, through merger in the source, and with the help of breath control, one has to remain established in the self. That is what needs to be done, Bhagavan had said. Nonetheless, Daivarata is asking this question. Obviously, all the questions have been recorded only for our sake. And Devarata has asked the question, which is the most important duty? Kim kartavyam manushyassya pradhanam? Which is the most important duty? And give me one important duty, because our minds are not ready to get back and abide continuously in the self. Bhagavan says, Atmanishto bhava, abide in the self. But we have several doubts. We have a doubt. What about my other duties? Are they not important? That doubt is expressed by Devarata a little differently over here by asking, which is the most important duty, Bhagavan? Many, many duties are cast upon me. And in this way, Devarata is also clearing the path for us. In a way, he is getting us to understand which is the most important task to be done in life. Which is the most important task? Because there are so many important tasks. There are so many important duties for us to fulfill. And from moment to moment, our mind is saying, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to take care of my body, I need to take care of the dear ones, I need to take care of some other responsibilities which have been assigned to me. Are not all these important? This is a question which will keep coming back to us. And it is only because we feel all these are important that we are not able to set aside enough time for practicing self-abidance. If we felt that that is the most important duty, then would we not automatically set aside time for that practice? Would we not give it primacy of place? Therefore, Devarata has asked and Bhagavan has answered categorically, Swasya Swarupam Vigneyam Pradhanam Mahadichatha. If you want the highest, if you are having the desire for the highest, Sadhu Om Swami in one of his songs, he says, Pahalai Kana Perasai Patten. I am greedy, he says. I am greedy to see the light. I am greedy to see the rising of the self, that daylight of the self. I am greedy to see it. So that greed, if it is there in us, that is Mahadichata. Dilip was also talking to us about that fascination. So if I want it so much, in economics, the very first definition which the students are taught is what is a want? What is a want? Because unless there is a want, there will be no economic activity. Economics is about money. It's about spending. It's about getting money. Commerce and economics. So economics is about the movement of money. Since it's about the movement of money, we are taught, very first lesson we are taught, the difference between a desire and a want. A desire is, in economic terms, I would like to have something. I would like to eat something. I would like to eat an ice cream, or I would like to eat a special meal at a hotel, whatever it is. Or I would like to eat some sweets, something if I would like to eat. If the thought comes into my mind, I would like to eat these things. That is a desire. But it becomes a want only when I pursue it with action. When I get up from wherever I am, or I call and order that dish which I want to eat, if I take the trouble to order that dish, or if I take the trouble to go and procure that dish, then it becomes a want. When I pay for it, when I actually pay for it in order to get it, that becomes a want. That is the difference between a desire and a want. So do we want self-knowledge or do we desire self-knowledge is the question. Bhagavan says, if you want it, mahadichata, if you really want self-knowledge, then I am telling you that the practicing of self-abidance is the most important duty cast upon you. Don't worry. Abide in the self. Don't worry about what will happen to A or B or C. Just abide in the self as far as possible, whenever possible. If the mind just will not be abiding, okay, then one resorts to other activities, and those activities which will help us to get back to abidance, or any activity performed with the sense of Ishwararpitam, with the Ishwararpita buddhi, with the attitude of offering it to the Supreme, with the recognition that the Supreme alone is acting, that there is nothing for me to achieve and there is actually nothing for me to do. I am not even the doer. With this attitude, one can take up other activities. And then, as much as possible, get back. Automatically, we will do that. If there is that fascination, if that mahadichhata is there, if that desire for the highest good is there, for what purpose am I doing anything in this world? For what purpose am I doing it? Bhagavan clearly tells us that we are doing it for the sake of attaining happiness. And then he also clearly tells us that happiness is our own nature. It is not there in the objects. It is not there in any object whatsoever. So unless one gets back to one's nature, one would not have fulfilled the purpose of any action. Therefore, Bhagavan says, Pratishtha yatra sarvesham phalanam utakarmanam. That is the fruit of all action. Abidance in the self is the fruit of all actions. So don't worry. Abide. Don't worry about what will happen to any other desire of yours. After all, every desire is only for the highest desire, mahadichhata, for the highest desire of being ever established in bliss, of enjoying that bliss in which there is no change whatsoever. That is our goal. So if we remember that goal, then Bhagavan says, all your duties will get taken care of when you achieve that. Because if we abide in the self, then not only are we abiding in the self, we have freed millions of other beings as well. That's why it's called the highest duty. Not only are we free, we would have freed so many others. I often say, give a small example for this. I say that supposing somebody treats me badly in some way and I feel hurt, then the moment I feel hurt, what happens? By the law of karma, that every action will have an equal and opposite reaction, it will automatically come to happen that the person who has hurt me will also have to get hurt in some way or the other. Now, if that person has to get hurt, there will have to be someone who will hurt that person. Someone who will speak ill or someone who will do some harm to that person. So say I am A and somebody has hurt me, that person is B. Now that B has to be hurt by C because B also has to experience the pain which I have experienced. Then C again has to experience that pain. So just look at the chain of hurt that is created by me just by my feeling bad. I create a chain of feeling bad. However, If I am able to drop that feeling bad, it's all right. Because of my vichara, if I say I am the self, what is there for me to feel bad? Who am I if I get back to the self through inquiry instead of holding on to my hurt? If I let go that hurt through inquiry, of course it can happen through surrender also. So if one lets go that, then what happens? The moment I let go, the moment I do not feel hurt by somebody's words, somebody said something or did not say something, somebody's action, somebody ignored me, whichever it is, that action which could have hurt me, if I do not feel hurt by it, then that person who performed that action or who spoke that word is free. That person doesn't have to experience anything negative because I never felt anything negative. When I don't feel something negative, the person, even if intentionally that person was saying something to me, that person is freed. Then another person who had to hurt, that person is freed. The whole chain of hurt is cut by that one single action of my dropping my sense of hurt. That's why Bhagavan says, even if you drop one single thought through inquiry, it will go a long way because the whole chain is cut. And then for me, what happens? For each one of us, what happens when we don't carry that? We do not sow a seed in our own mind. Every time when we take something to ourselves, when we hold a thought, it becomes a seed in our mind for future experience. Every time I see that person, I will say, oh, that person is one who hurts me. So it becomes a seed in my mind. Others may also hurt me. I should be careful not to get hurt. All these thoughts, that whole tree of hurt starts building up. It grows, it produces fruits, seeds, more for myself, for each one of us also. But if we cut that thought, if we get back to the source instead, that tree will never grow in us. Those seeds, those multiple seeds, the fruits and the seeds. And for every thought, if this can be done, then imagine the degree of freedom and joy. So Daivarata asks Bhagavan, okay, Bhagavan, you are telling this is the highest goal. What is the sadhana for it? Okay, he says, if Swasya Swarupa Vijnanam is the highest goal, Swasya Swarupam Vijneyam Sadhanam Kim Samasataha. Swasya Swarupam Vijnane Sadhanam Kim Samasataha. Siddhyet Kena Prayatnena Pratyak Drishtir Mahiyasi. By what effort can I ever abide in that truth? And Bhagavan says, Vishayebhyah paravritya vritti sarva prayatnataha vimarshe kevalam tishte dachale nirupadhike swasya swarupa vijnane sadhanam tatsamasataha siddhyete naiva yatnena pratyak drishtir mahiyasi. Vishayebhyah paravritya, turning away from all objects. Vritti sarva, from all thoughts. Prayatnataha, by effort. So turning away from all thoughts, Vimarshe kevalam tishte dachale nirupadhike. Absolute stillness. Be merged in that absolute stillness, achala, nirupadhike, in which there is no attribute. This is the way. Swasya swarupa vijnane sadhanam tat samasataha siddhyetena eva yatnena pratyak drishtirmahisi. Only by this practice you can get the revelation, the drishti of the truth. Keep on turning the attention back from all objects, from all thoughts, by effort, prayatnena. Doesn't happen automatically, says Bhagavan. Oh, my mind is running. Yes, it's running. So what am I supposed to do? I am supposed to make an effort to turn it back to the self. I should make the effort. Siddhetenaiva yatnena. Yatnena. By this practice alone can one get self-awareness. So as and when an object rises in the form of a thought, one has to become aware. This is a thought. This is a thought. This is an experience for me. This is not I. Who am I? And through this question, one must get back to that absolutely attributeless, which does not have any other appendage. That self, one must abide in that self, says Bhagavan. And again, whenever he tells us, do this, this is the way, the Sadguru is saying it's possible. In today's answer, the question was asked, is it possible? And Bhagavan says, yes, it is possible. And that is his grace. He always says, yes, there is hope. Yes, it is possible. Others have done it. Why not you? He has asked. In different ways, he tells us, yes, his grace is with us to abide as the self. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Akka. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatrum Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hridhi Chintayami Chinta Vihinam